Do I need a comma here, or do I need a semicolon? In this video lesson, we will cover standard punctuation rules including end marks, commas, semicolons, and apostrophes. After a quick but thorough practice session, we will try a quick test to see how well you have learned your standard punctuation rules. Let's begin. So punctuation items on an objective test might look like these. As we got out of the car, we could smell the delicious chicken and rice that Grandma was cooking for dinner. Do you need a comma after car in letter A, a comma after chicken in letter B, or a comma after rice in letter C? Or is this sentence correct and no change is necessary? You need a comma after car in letter A because you need to connect the introductory clause "as we got out of the car" to the rest of the complete sentence. Sample item 2. So an item might have 3 or 4 versions of a sentence, and you'll have to choose the letter where all punctuation is correct. Look out for your commas and your apostrophes to make sure you know that this sentence is correct. Is letter A correct? Since Grandma wasn't looking, Julie filled the dog's bowls with leftovers from the meal. Is letter B correct? Since Grandma wasn't looking, Julie filled the dog's bowls with leftovers from the meal. Is letter C correct? Since Grandma wasn't looking, Julie filled the dog's bowls with leftovers from the meal. Letter C is correct. We have a contraction with wasn't in letter C that needs to have an apostrophe. We also have a possession of the dog's bowls, and the dogs are plural, so we need an S apostrophe. So what are end marks? We have 3 of them. You use a period to end statements, such as Jasmine ate a chocolate broccoli muffin. You want to use a question mark when asking a question, such as, did Jasmine eat a chocolate broccoli muffin? You can also use, but not overuse, the exclamation mark to signify excitement or emphasis. Oh no, Jasmine ate a chocolate broccoli muffin. One exclamation mark per essay is likely a good average. Please do not overuse your exclamation points. So how do we use commas? There are actually several different ways. You want to use commas to connect introductory, interrupting, and some concluding material. Now, interrupting material will include a comma before and a comma after. Let's check out sample sentences. For the introductory comma, without a doubt, comma, Jasmine will pass the comma test. If it's interrupting, it needs a comma before and after. For example, Jasmine will, comma, without a doubt, comma, pass the comma test. If it is concluding material, your example would be, Jasmine will pass the comma test, comma, without a doubt. You can also use a comma with a coordinating conjunction to connect 2 sentences or 2 complete thoughts. Most times you're also going to want to use a coordinating conjunction, such as and, but, for, or, nor, yet, and so. A lot of times we refer to these as the anagram fanboys. Here are a couple of sample sentences. Jasmine will pass the comma test, comma, coordinating conjunction, but slacker Sam will not. You can use those conjunctions alone, however, without the commas to connect 2 items. If you have 3 or more items, that's when you are going to use your commas. For example, there are no commas with just two items. Jasmine will buy a bag of potato chips and a hot dog. If she buys more items, however, you need commas for the list. Jasmine will buy a bag of potato chips, comma, a hot dog, comma, and a soda. So what is a semicolon? You want to use the semicolon, a comma with a period over it, to connect two main clauses. Do not use the semicolon to introduce a list. The comma with a transition like such as or including, or the colon, just two dots, does that job. Let's try an example sentence. Jasmine worries about her grade in statistics. Math is not her best subject. Let's use a semicolon. Jasmine worries about her grades in statistics, semicolon, math is not her best subject. Because those are two complete sentences or two main clauses, all you need is a semicolon. If I add more information to introduce a list, however, you're going to need a comma or a colon. Jasmine prefers classes that require her to write colon, Intro to Humanities, comma, Abnormal Psychology, comma, and U.S. Government. What is an apostrophe? You want to use the apostrophe with an S to show possession, such as the singular Jasmine's pen and the cat's eyes. If you're going to have multiple, you have professor's S apostrophe frowns to show that there is more than one professor. You also want to use the apostrophe to indicate the letters and spaces that are removed in a contraction, such as the words she and had combined would create she apostrophe D. The word cannot, if you take away the NO, becomes can apostrophe T. The word should and have, when pushed together, become should apostrophe VE. Let's try an example sentence, see where we need to put apostrophes. We are ready for our quick test. If you'd like to go back to the beginning of the standard punctuation video in order to refresh and review your skills, you may do so now. You also have a handout in PDF form of standard punctuations that you can practice before you move on to the quick test. Or you can wait until after this video and work on that to review your skills. But if you're ready, let's continue on to our quick test. So in the items that follow, choose the option that corrects an error in the underlined portions. If no error exists, you may choose letter D, no change is necessary. Item 1. Although Raymond will eat a grasshopper, he refuses all green vegetables, such as peas, spinach, and even cucumbers. Should you put a comma between although and Raymond in letter A? Should you take away the comma between grasshopper and he in letter B? Should you change the semicolon out of vegetables and such in letter C to a comma? Or letter D, this sentence is correct and no change is necessary. The semicolon should not lead a list. If anything, it should be a comma or a colon. So in this case, letter C, vegetables, comma, such would be your choice. Item 2. Before his calculus exam, Scott rubbed his lucky rabbit's foot and found his favorite pencil. Should you exchange letter A, exam Scott, with one with a comma? Do you need a comma in letter B between rubbed and his? Do you need a comma between foot and in letter C? Or letter D, this sentence is correct and no change is necessary. You need a comma after your prepositional phrase before his calculus exam in order to separate it from the rest of the main clause of the sentence. Therefore, letter A needs a comma. Item 3. Francine has 5 chairs but 6 guests coming for Thanksgiving dinner. She hopes that old Uncle Ross remembers to bring an extra. Should you take the apostrophe out of chairs in letter A? Should you add an apostrophe to guests in letter B? Should you add an apostrophe to remembers in letter C? Or letter D, this sentence is correct and no change is necessary? Chairs is not being possessive in any way, so letter A, you should take out that possessive apostrophe. Item 4. Roseanne washed the piles of dirty dishes, while Maria vacuumed the filthy rug. They tried to complete a month's worth of housekeeping in a single hour. Should you take out the semicolon in letter A and leave dishes and while alone? Should you add a comma to letter B to tried to? Should you take out the apostrophe from months in letter C? Or letter D, is this sentence correct and no change is necessary? There is no need for a semicolon in letter A. Item 5. Audrey can't leave work early and Peggy won't help with the cupcakes, so I guess I'll have to do all the baking myself. Should you take out the apostrophe in can't in letter A? Should you add an apostrophe to won't in letter B? Should you take out the apostrophe in I'll in letter C? Or letter D, this sentence is correct and no change is necessary? You have a contraction in letter B, therefore won't needs to have an apostrophe between the N and the T. Item 6. During our picnic, we were tormented by insects. Ants swarming into the potato salad, bees buzzing by our ears, and a katydid jumping into Henry's open mouth. Should you take away the comma in letter A between picnic and we? Should you change the colon to a semicolon in letter B between insects and ants? In letter C, should you take away the comma between salads and bees? Or letter D, this sentence is correct and no change is necessary? Here is a correct sentence. No change is necessary. The colon is correct and both commas are needed. Let's try another quick test. This time, in the items that follow, choose the sentence that is correctly punctuated between A, B, and C. Which sentence is correct with its punctuation? A. Roger spent 3 hours writing Christina's paper. B. Roger spent 3 hours writing Christina's paper. Or C. Roger spent 3 hours writing Christina's paper. Watch for your apostrophes. Letter C is correct. There is no need for possession of hours, therefore you don't need an apostrophe there. But Christina's paper needs to have an apostrophe S because she is possessing her paper. Item 8. Which is the correct answer? Letter A. When the crickets and the frogs sing, Luis cannot get a good night's sleep. Letter B. When the crickets and the frogs sing, Luis cannot get a good night's sleep. Letter C. When the crickets and the frogs sing, Luis cannot get a good night's sleep. Watch for your apostrophes and your commas. Letter B is correct. You need to have a comma between your main clause and your subordinate clause of when the crickets and the frogs sing. You also need to have night apostrophe S so you can show the possessiveness of the nights with the sleep. Item 9. Which is the correct answer? Before you start painting the walls, you'll need a drop cloth and a ladder. Before you start painting the walls, you'll need a drop cloth and a ladder. Before you start painting the walls, you'll need a drop cloth and a ladder. Look once again for your apostrophes and your commas. Letter A is correct. You have a subjunctive or a subordinate clause with the main clause before you start painting the walls, as a subordinate clause needs a comma. You also need a comma with you'll because that's a contraction of you will. Item 10. Which is the correct answer? Darlene laughed at Jeb's haircut. It looked as if the goats had grazed on his head. Letter B. Darlene laughed at Jeb's haircut. It looked as if goats had grazed on his head. Letter C. Darlene laughed at Jeb's haircut. It looked as if goats had grazed on his head. Once again, look at your commas, your semicolons, and your apostrophes. Letter B is correct. Jeb's haircut, the word Jeb's needs an apostrophe S to possess the haircut. We also have a semicolon here because you have two complete ideas. Therefore, you need to separate them with a semicolon. A comma would only create a run-on. You've made it to the end of the standard punctuation video. If you'd like, you can go through this video again and again in order to refresh and re-strengthen your skills. Don't forget, you have a PDF form handout of the standard punctuation quick test for you to review offline.